So welcome everyone. We've still got people filtering through. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessica Fernley. I am a business coach for women consultants who have a B2B corporate audience. And that also is relevant for corporate coaches. It's great to have you with me today. One of my big things in my business that I do with all of my clients is focus on how to shift your business so that you are working less and earning more. I think often we feel like we can work more to earn more, and like that's a hard and fast rule that I think we can feel uncomfortable changing. It can feel like I want to do more in my business. In fact, women say this to me a lot. I want to do more in my business, but I just don't know if I've got that extra gear to shift into to do the work to make it happen. And I have to say that I am all about, is this bad to say? I'm all about being as lazy as possible in your business. Give me a reaction if you like the sound of that. Not because it's not good to work hard, it's really good to work hard, but because it's not supposed to be the kind of thing, where we exhaust ourselves. And actually, if you've gone through your whole life to this point, and I say this a lot on my podcast, if you've done your school and university and your corporate career by working as hard as you possibly can, I know for me, that's exactly how I got most of the accolades in the early part of my life. It was 1,000% the blood, sweat, and tears. Like, I can work my way through this. I can get the grades that I want to get. I got a first class degree at university. I nearly had a nervous breakdown in the process. And in my corporate career, I had to exit quite early on, actually, because I went through burnout and had a breakdown. And so I'm a big fan of not like saying, oh, well, it's all just too much, then we can't fulfill these ambitions that we have. I'm all about ambitions. I'm all about fulfilling your potential. And I think it's really important to do that in a way which does not harm your physical or mental health. So that's a bit of the background in terms of why working less and earning more is a really important thing to me. And it's something that, I work on with all of my clients. But also it's important because we don't actually build businesses by working hard. The best businesses are built around leverage. And so that's how we came to today's topic of conversation, why I only work afternoons. Now, I'm going to just do a few minutes of talking about that and kind of tell you kind of how I've come to the point of only working afternoons in my business. And then I'm going to open up the floor for questions and comments and conversation. The topic, the title of this series is Seven Figure Consultant Conversations. It's a really awesome feature of LinkedIn Audio that we're able to have conversation and not just be typing on our keyboards, but actually talking in real time. So I'm going to be opening up the floor for those after I've just gone into my main bit of explanation there. So why I only work afternoons? I guess, is it because I'm lazy? I feel really strongly that life is more than just work. And I also have noticed in my business, this is a point that I want to make really quickly. I coach consultants, but actually, if you've noticed, I'm not a corporate consultant myself, but I understand that environment because before I set up on my own as a coach, I was head of operations in a consulting business in occupational psychology that we grew from 6 to 7 figures over the course of 4 years. So that is previous to that, like my career background was in business planning and development and also project management. So that's kind of where I came from with all of these things. But this is a rare topic of conversation in a sense, because I don't spend a lot of time as a coach being like, just so you know, this is how I do my business, so you should do yours the same, because a coaching business to consultants is not always the same as a consulting business to corporates. This is one of the areas that I think there is a bit of overlap, and there is something that is transferable to you guys who are listening, who are consultants or corporate coaches. I want to share this because I think that it is transferable. I'm not a coach who says you should do all the things that I've done, because actually I have a different business model to a lot of my clients. But I think it can be really transferable. So, right, if you're listening, we've got some lovely faces in here. It's awesome to see you all. If you're listening, you can still hear me. Hit a reaction so that I know that you're still there. I'm paranoid now because of the other day. Amazing. Good. You're still there. Great. So, why I only work afternoons then? About a year ago, I was I was coming into a big season of growth in my business, and I was just like, oh, I hate these long days that I do sometimes, the kind of days where you've just got calls from morning through till night. And I was just like, oh, I don't really feel like this is great. But around the same time, I did my Wealth Dynamics profile. Now, Wealth Dynamics is subsequently a tool that I have brought into my business, which I've almost never done before. But it's a framework that I like so much, and it's had such a dramatic impact on how I do my business and how I help my clients as well, that I really felt it was worth it. So the whole thing with Wealth Dynamics, it's a profiling tool for entrepreneurs. I think some people here may have heard of it or even done their profile already, but it tells you what you need to do to make money in your business. And it's a really clever tool because it's all about understanding not who you are on your best day, but actually who you are on your most mediocre day when you're not really feeling it and you don't really want to do anything. And that's a really important thing. So I discovered in my Wealth Dynamics that I'm a creator profile, which is classic entrepreneur profile. But to be honest, there's 8 profiles. They're all totally awesome and they all bring different things to the table. But a really important thing about being a creator profile is that we like to have big ideas. Anyone who knows me knows that I am like the queen of ideas. I've been stressing out my family for 39 years with my big ideas, and actually one of my children is similarly wired, and yeah, just being his parent for nearly 8 years has been stressing me out, and I think the same way. So there's that kind of generational dualism that goes on. But a really important thing for creators is that we love to have ideas, we love to put things out into the world, but actually you can't do that when you don't have any time available in your schedule. And that's true for a lot of profiles of the clients that I tend to work with. I typically I work with dynamos, which is mechanics creators and stars, but also with blaze energy, so star supporter and deal maker. Those are classic profiles that I tend to work with around the square. But if you are that person, if you need to have creative ideas, if you need to be reaching out to people, if you need to show up in your business with quite a lot of energy, which as a coach or consultant you absolutely do, we give out to our clients all the time. So if you're not also making sure that you've got time in your schedule to be balanced, it just doesn't work. I don't know if you've experienced that already, just that kind of that giving out burnout feeling when you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm spending all my time like solving other people's problems and showing up and being the enthusiastic person. And like that's naturally who I am. And I'm sure for a lot of you too, that feels very natural, very authentic. But what you find over time is that if you're not making space for yourself, then you can't show up in that energy. And it starts off with kind of just feeling tired. It can also end up with like getting sick, and like ultimately it can end up with burnout. So a big shift that I started to make in my business last year when I realized this was my Wealth Dynamics profile was to say, do you know what? It's not working with me doing full days anymore. And I wasn't working 5 days a week at the time. I was working 3 days. I was working Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So I looked at my schedule at that moment and I was like, this cannot be done. I cannot cut my days in half. I can't reclaim my mornings. That just isn't going to work. And it was really interesting because I sat down and I looked at it, and at the same time thinking, this is something that I cannot possibly do. Within about 3 weeks, I'd achieved it. And I'd gone from kind of literally not even being able to think about how I do it to then sitting down with an Excel spreadsheet mapped out like the shape of the week. And then I just looked at it and was like, right, I actually can see how this is going to work. And I think it's going to be amazing. And so what has happened from that point on is that, yes, now I only work afternoons. I have a slightly different shaped schedule because I still had my youngest at home last year, whereas now he's in school full time. So I actually have 5 afternoons if I want them, but I like to keep my Fridays free as much as possible. Friday is massage day for me because, coaches, we give out a lot. We need to make sure that we're putting it back as well. And like, I like my Monday, Tuesday, Thursday pattern. So I kind of aim, to be honest, and Andrea manages my schedule. She can vouch for me here. I aim to only really work Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday afternoon, and instead the morning is now time for decompression. And I have like quite a relaxed routine. I have to get up early to get the kids ready, but from about 8:30 in the morning, everyone is left for the day. My husband too, he takes the kids to school. And so I just suddenly have all this time until I start work at maybe 1 p.m. or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's been quite a liberating thing. So typically, I, you know, tidy up the house a little bit. I take my dog for a nice long walk. I do some yoga. I have time to have like a healthy lunch. Like I think this year it's been a really important thing for me to think about what I'm eating a bit more and try and eat for optimum energy, and not be kind of dragging myself around by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and like desperate for caffeine. I've actually quit caffeine this year. Um, but like part of making that change is just being able to say, do you know what, I need a better balance. I need to be kind of pootling around. Quite often I have my content ideas in the mornings when there's no pressure on, when I'm not even necessarily thinking about work stuff. So it is a really important thing. If you're working in this environment where like you are showing up as a thought leader, where you're an advisor to people, you need time to be able to think, because if you're just on calls kind of 8 till 6 every day, you do all your thinking while you're doing other things, and then you're not present for family time. You're not present for yourself. You're waking up in the middle of the night thinking about stuff that you could have been thinking about during the day. So that's the first main thing that I wanted to share. It's kind of my experience of really having the resistance and being like, I like the idea of this, but I just can't see how it's going to happen. Um, the practical thing behind this is starting to block time. So one of my clients actually, the advice I gave her was like, start blocking out not just 1 hour for lunch, but an hour and a half. And if you can get away with it, 2 hours is a really nice amount of time to block out. And the reason for that is that then you don't just like rush downstairs if you're working at home. I'm kind of assuming that everyone is doing like remote work over Zoom with clients, but I know for some of you might be traveling to actually see them now. But you're not just like rushing to get a sandwich and then rushing back to your computer to like pick up again, because actually inside of an hour can be quite tricky if you're finishing stuff off for the first 10 minutes and then you need to kind of get everything ready and actually do the eating. You can end up with like sort of 5-10 minutes of time to decompress, and it's not really worth like going outside or having a break. Whereas if you block like a nice long lunch hour, you can take your time, you can actually cook proper food that you want to have and that's healthy, and then you can like have a walk or like watch some Netflix or whatever you feel like doing, something that will really take you away from just that headspace that you've been in. But I think it's also worth giving some thought to the start time and the end time of your day. For me, like I said before, like my work day typically starts between 1 and 2 in the afternoon. Now that's practical because a lot of my clients are in the US and I'm in the UK. So afternoon for me is morning for them, and it's a really nice way to make it work actually. But I think it's also important to think not just like what time are you going to start, but what time are you going to finish, because it's that scope creep. And I'm terrible for doing this in my own schedule. Excuse me, doing so much talking. I'm going to hand over to you guys in a minute. But when I'm doing my own planning, I tend to be like, well, I finish at 5, but like, yeah, I'll take that call at 5. Yeah, 5 till 6 is fine. And so like, just be really clear in your own mind. And if someone manages your schedule for you, which by the way is an excellent thing to do, because then a lot of these decisions are taken out of your hands and you can't carry on overbooking yourself. But know what time you're going to finish and actually consciously get up at the end of the day and start doing something different. That's a really important thing. So you don't just end up grazing at your computer screen or like doing emails or starting something that you're not going to be able to finish, all that kind of stuff. But the other thing about blocking time, it's not just about slots in the day, it's also about days in the week, and it's about weeks in the month, and it's about months in the year. So I said to myself actually a few years ago, my goal was going to be 1 day off a week, 1 week off a month, and 1 month off a year. And actually, that's something which this year I think I've been able to really put into practice, and blocking off weeks of time in my schedule. Andrew will tell you that is not an easy thing to achieve. I've got a very busy schedule, so like blocking out time in that can be really difficult. But if we're organized, if we do it in advance, then it actually can really work. So what I like to do actually is I actually block off 2 weeks every month. One of them is what I call an Earth Week, which is all about getting things done and like having time to actually create the content, having time to have the ideas, and actually not just kind of sit and think about them, but actually put pen to paper, start creating things that we need to be operational in the business, behind the scenes often. But also I have something called a Water Week, which is something that I really love to do. And it's where I just have an empty week in my schedule, no calls unless it's an absolute VIP client. Um, and that week is all about resting. It's all about recharging. It's all about starting to say, do you know what? I'm not going to be rushing around this week. I'm not going to be going from thing to thing to thing. I'm going to be sitting down. I'm going to be journaling. I'm going to be seeing what mindset stuff comes up and really working through that mindset stuff and working on releasing the things that I'm ready to release as well. And it gives you amazing perspective when you start to do that, because you notice things that you wouldn't have noticed if you're going too quickly. And I really love to do it. So I'm all for like not just blocking off days, but blocking off entire weeks, blocking off entire months if you need to. And it's the kind of thing, don't worry if you have a lot of resistance to that, because I think we can feel, I was exactly the same. I was like, I can't possibly do this. And yet we're entrepreneurs. Like, if you give us a problem, we are going to be able to find a solution. But also, the thing to notice about all of this is that if you restrict the amount of time you have available, then you get fully booked a lot sooner. And that's quite sobering, because I think we tend to think, I can sell, I can sell, I can sell. And we build up our revenue by doing more and more sales, like getting more and more things that we're going to deliver. But actually, you need to be realistic, and you need to be saying, I'm actually fully booked already. I think that was the big thing that I saw, was like, I see fully booked as like every hour of every day is billable work. But actually what I found is that there are lots of calls that I want to be having all the time. And actually I can't say yes to them, or I can't do them in the time frame that I want to, because the time available is very limited. But all women know this. That's actually quite a good dynamic to be playing with, because what it means is that you're not going to be saying yes to stuff unless it's really, really important. And that's it's such a good focus to have in a business. It makes a huge difference if you're already filtering through, like, yes, I want to have this, but is it actually important? And having to prioritize things every minute of every day. But the other thing is that in order to make this work in your business, you need to do two things. Firstly, be raising your prices so that you're actually charging what you're worth, and your business model can work on fewer hours. And that links to the second thing, is that really thinking about how you can leverage your offerings. And there are different ways that you can go through that. Like with all of my clients, I always say, I am not going to just implement one way of doing things. I don't see it as being just one thing or just one way of achieving what you want to. Some people, it might be that like it's better for them to think about a group program than just doing one-to-one work, whether they're coaching or consulting. Some people, it might actually be that it'll be better to start looking at delivery team options and pulling them out of delivery that little bit, so that they can step back and they can be coordinating the business more. That's something that we do really often in the work that I do, to be honest. But yeah, making sure that you're really focusing in on like how to get the value out of your time without having to be physically in person present. And what I typically find, especially if you look at how you can raise your prices, it's not about pulling you away from your clients and saying you just don't talk to people anymore. You know, one of those faceless things where it's a personal brand, but then no one is anywhere to be found when they actually pay to work with you. It's not like that at all. It's more about thinking really carefully about who you want to work with and the level at which you work with them. So that's a lot of the stuff that I wanted to say. Obviously, I'm always going to have a ton more stuff to talk about, but I would love to hear from you guys. If you've got any questions, any comments, what you have to do is raise your hand, and then if you'd like to come up onto the stage, maybe you've got questions about how this is going in your business. Now, hold on, I'm trying to be clever and do two things at once, talk and press buttons at once. Jean, welcome. Can you unmute yourself? Can you hear us, Jean? If anyone else wants to raise their hand and join the stage as well, come up and make a comment or a question. Jean, I don't know if you're having the issue that I had. My microphone was not enabled on my browser, so I don't know if that helps. Andrea, are you still there? Can you still unmute?
Yeah, I was using Chrome as well, so I don't know if that.
Yeah, that can have. I don't know. I suspect that the issue I was having last week might have been Safari related. Jean, we can't hear you yet, but we are holding on hope that you'll be able to unmute. And if anyone else would like to come up on the stage, and ask a question or make a comment. Oh. Jeff, see if you can unmute. There we go.
Hi, Jessica. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you? It's been a while.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I just launched my website, and so that's exciting. I'm still half-time with my day job organization. And I'm doing, my delivery method right now is one-on-one coaching. And the work I really love to do is going deep with people and, it really kind of transformational work. So I totally understand the raised prices, which you and I spoke a while back about that, working on that. The second piece, though, is the part I'm struggling with, and I haven't put that much time into it. And I believe I haven't done the wealth dynamics test, but I believe I'm a creator as well. Just like looking at it, I've done a ton of assessments in my life. I think that's where I fit in. To put the time into creating it, but I'm struggling with what that could look like because the work I do tends to be deeper. So I have to change my perspective on, that kind of offering would be less, of a different variety, perhaps. So do you have any guidance on making that transition, or how did you do it? Maybe like, how do you leverage the offer when you're starting off with the one-on-one modality?
I think starting with one-on-one is a really great way to do it. And the thing is, there is no right or wrong way to do it, really. But how I did it is that I got my first client and then I got my second client and sort of built up that way, literally just kind of one engagement at a time initially. I wasn't sure if you were kind of saying that the issue is, Jeff, that you're still doing a bit of your day job. So how do you get the space to sort of create? Is that what you were asking?
Well, that's always, I know there's stuff there too. I need to work on that, but that just is what it is. And I believe I can work on it. It's more about the thinking, like what kind of thinking space I need to kind of occupy to make that transition or offer, again, leverage the offer. And one idea I have, let me share this idea. So this is what really attracts me. I just have not, put any effort into it yet because I've been busy with other stuff, but to create a group of people who are, senior leaders who, my offer is around senior leaders in transition or in a new role. I obviously don't have to just work with those people, but to have I don't like the word mastermind, but have a group that comes together where I would basically primarily hold space for them to connect with each other around topics of interest, given the challenge that they're facing currently in their work. So that's an idea. I really like that because I love the idea of holding space and having groups come together where I'm not training them necessarily, although that could be a part of it. But the primary, benefit would be just having a safe community to connect with, people in a similar position. So that's the idea I have. But again, I haven't gone anywhere from there.
Yeah. So I think at that stage, a really important thing is to actually get it operational as soon as you can, because you learn so much by doing. And then a lot of the ideas in terms of what to include, but how to market it, how to speak about it, you will learn so much by hosting that kind of group. So I think as quickly as you can, getting something like that operational and just being every time anyone says anything, whether it's on a sales call or in a group call, just be thinking, oh, I wonder if other people would have that perspective as well. And you'll find that your content will just write itself because you'll get so much more understanding. It's kind of and I've really found this in my business, actually, at several points where I've been I'm going to do something new. You can only know so much, standing on the side. You kind of have to jump in order to really know what it's going to be. And I often find it's interesting to compare kind of my gut feel on marketing versus what I then know about the group once I've started running it, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense.
So I think that's really important. And I think really with a group like that, just, take the one at a time approach, speak to people, do some outreach and just see if you can get together. I don't know, think of a number that would be your minimum number to get it operational, and then just sell it to those people and start running it. That would be my advice.
That's great, Jessica. Thank you so much. And I want to give you my appreciation for all that you offer. You really have benefited. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Now, would anyone else like to come up and ask a question, make a comment, kind of maybe share like how this process of, getting yourself fully booked, and then being like, oh, I think I want to be less booked than I currently am. It can be really interesting, I think, sometimes just that whole process of like you think, oh, won't it be great to be fully booked? And then it happens to you and it's like, oh, it doesn't feel like I thought it would. It can be something that it can feel so overwhelming when it happens. And I think that also links to another point, which is really important, of just knowing when success is happening for you, because I think it doesn't always feel like we think it will. So a really important thing, and I say this to a lot of the women that I work with, is just make sure that you're always like conscious of like where you are, but also what you have been through to get to the point that you're now at. Because I think we can, especially if you're the personality type where you focus on the negatives more than the positives, we can just take for granted all of the amazing progress that we're making all the time. Like, so to even be fully booked, it's such a brilliant problem to have, but we miss that when we're just thinking, oh, this is such a hard thing. Oh, I feel so stressed. Oh, my life is so difficult now. We can make it into quite a negative thing if we're not careful. So I'm not seeing a ton of raised hands. This is your moment if you would like to, but if we are just winding down, I just want to say thank you everyone for being here. It's been great to see you on the call. Some of you I know, some of you are new, but if you have liked what you have heard, do click to follow me on LinkedIn. If you go over to my LinkedIn newsletter, which is called the 7-Figure Consultant LinkedIn newsletter, you can click through to subscribe to my email list as well. And there you get to hear all of the things that I'm doing, whether it's webinars or events like this on LinkedIn. I also have a podcast called the 7-Figure Consultant Podcast that puts out weekly episodes. So it would be brilliant to hear about that. Now, one thing that I am doing actually tomorrow, in fact, is a webinar called Stop Overworking and Make More Money. And we're going to be digging into the principles of what I've talked about. It's actually one of my most popular webinars. I love to run it actually because it's all about how to craft a CEO job description for yourself. So instead of being your own hardest working employee and doing all of the things and being like completely schedule blocked Monday to Friday, 8 till 6 every week, it's all about starting to step back and work out the thing that you want to put in place in your business that can be very unique, can be very different to what other people are doing. That, like I said before, there's no one size fits all, but it's all about how to start putting that into practice in your consulting business. So you can register for that. We've set it up as a LinkedIn event actually, so you can find it on my profile and clicking on events. But if you go to jessicafernley.com/webinar, you can register. Like I said, it's happening in 24 hours. It's this time tomorrow, 2:30 UK time, which is 9:30 Eastern. So if you'd like to come and be part of that, it's completely free. I'd love to see you there, and make sure that you register for that. Thanks everyone for listening. It's been really fun having this conversation. I hope you found it helpful. I look forward to seeing you hopefully tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, then definitely in a couple of weeks when we do the next one of these. So thank you everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.